What's up, guys, and welcome back to Bible Friends English. Josh and Amber here. Today we're going to talk about how you guys can make a study plan that actually works.
Yeah, so there's a missing key component to every study plan. So if you've been studying English for a while, then you've probably met plenty of times where you either plateaued in your language, like you're growing, and then not, or you've started and you work so hard, but you don't have the confidence to still get out there and speak. And so there's a lot of things, whether you are an intermediate trying to get to advanced level, or you're a high beginner working to get to intermediate level and just trying to break out of that survival English fold. This is the key that you're going to need.
So we're going to talk about 3 things today for you guys to kind of level up your study, so to speak. And it all comes down to how you make your study plan. So this is the big moment here. We're gonna say the overall arching way for you to improve your English and make a better study plan is to make good goals.
Which sounds so anticlimactic.
Yes, it was purposefully so. So when we study a language or anything really, we have to study with our goals in mind, because depending on our goal will depend on how we study, what we study, and how long it takes to study.
Right. But there is an art to making a goal that works. So if your goal is to be a fluent English speaker, there is a lot missing there. What kind of English, in what region of the country that you want to speak English in? You've got to figure out, what is fluency? Does fluency mean you know 10,000 words? Or does it mean you know 20,000 words? Or does it mean that you are able to stand in front of a crowd and speak English and deliver a speech that you've memorized? Or does it mean that you pass the IELTS or the TOEFL exam? What is fluency in English? You have to know what that is in order to be able to set a proper goal. Because if your goal is to be fluent in English or to have English speaking friends, you can do that without having English, honestly.
And also, like you're hinting at, is that every person's definition of fluency can be really different.
Exactly.
And so you guys need to know what exactly you're hoping to do. If you're wanting to have an American friend or a foreign friend, then fluency doesn't necessarily mean the same as a person trying to get a professional job with needing to pass these major exams.
Yeah, I mean, if the researchers are right, then 70% of our communication happens with paralanguage anyway. Yeah. So you don't really need to speak. You can have friends with just your body language.
And we've known people like that. People in the States who their English is not very good at all, but they've been able to have relationships and friends. And so if that's the key, if that's your goal, your study is going to be different. So today we're going to talk about 3 ways, though, to make better goals and have a better study plan for you guys.
Goals that work. That's the key. We all set our 2022 goals, right? How many of us are still on track with that in February? So let's get into what that means. The first thing that you need in order to make a goal is that it needs to be measurable. What is measurable?
Measurable this sounds kind of Western, but we need to be able to put numbers on it. So like, if you said, I want to lose weight this year for my 2022 goal.
If I lose a pound,
then you've lost weight.
I've met my goal.
So you have to be able to measure it, because if you don't measure it, then your goal could be lost. Or another big one is that you can't celebrate the wins.
Yeah, that's true. You've got to have those very clear milestones, and just being fluent in English doesn't do that. Now, passing a test, that would be a great measurable goal. But you've got to add more to that. But to pass the TOEFL exam, that's a great goal. That is a measurable goal that you can reach to. So that's number 1, is measure.
And number 2, it needs some sort of time aspect to it. So not only do we need to measure it, being able to say, I've done 1, 2, 3, but also we have to have a time aspect of saying, by this time or in this time. Because if we just say, I want to lose 30 pounds this year, or I want to memorize 200 words this year, or I want to read 20 books this year. Well, what happens if we wait till the last possible second and then we still have those 20 books to read?
Procrastinators.
So it's really hard to not have a tutor, not have someone helping you out or pushing you or encouraging you, and to still stay on track. One of the ways you can do that is to set weekly or monthly goals and go back and review them, measure them, and again, celebrate the wins, correct things when they need to be shifted, and make goals that are more time specific, not just number specific.
Yeah. And it's really important with that time that you don't set one that's too far ahead, because generally speaking, it takes about 10 years to achieve real natural fluency in a language, especially something like English or Mandarin. That takes a lot of work, and it takes a good 10 years of really engaging every day in order to get to where you achieve that fluency. For most people, some of us are extremely talented with language. And Josh, I believe, would achieve fluency in Mandarin much faster than me, but that's because that's how his mind works. So this is one of the things too. Don't set goals that are beyond 5 years, because honestly, that's pretty far. And it's hard to stay motivated now for something that's 10 years from now. So you need to be setting major goals, overarching goals, but have those goals be very specific and within 2 years if possible. I wouldn't go more than 5 years for setting a language learning goal, just because those procrastinators out there, they're going to wait for a bit. So number 3, you need to make sure that these goals are realistic. Okay, I've had a lot of students say, I need a tutor to help me pass the TOEFL exam in 2 weeks. And they are high beginner students, but the TOEFL exam is designed for high intermediate or low advanced speakers. So you can't cover that much ground. And there is so much out there on the internet that says, hey, we're going to teach you English in 6 months. Don't fall for that. Don't fall for it. Like, there are things that you can learn. Yes. Can you get out there and be able to have the same constructed conversation with somebody and hear the key phrases they're going to say and be able to get by? Yeah. We were able to go to restaurants and order food and buy our groceries and stuff just fine within 6 months of living in China. But were we fluent? By no means.
No. And that's again, that's what people will try to convince you of, is learning a language in 6 months or a year. People try to convince you that that's possible because, I mean, I want it to be possible.
Yeah, that would be great.
It would be awesome if we can all learn a language in 6 months or a year or even shorter. But the truth is that it takes a lot of time, and that's why we have to stay on our time schedule, because it can take a lot of time. We get distracted very easily. So not only have goals that we can measure, goals that we can put numbers to, but also make sure that we have goals that we can put on a calendar. Get a calendar, get a nice calendar system going for you and being able to check. And then number 3 is make sure and check with your friends or with some other tutors, and just make sure that these goals are realistic. That I'm not trying to overreach myself, because a lot of times we want those big achievements, but if we don't reach them, if we fall short of them, then actually we can burn out. We can be really discouraged because we didn't make that goal. We didn't pass the TOEFL. But we got to make these good goals so that we can do justice to ourselves and to our study habits, so that we can achieve those true goals that we're trying to set out.
Right. So what does a really good goal look like? Because I want to point back to our first year in China a little bit, because a lot of our goal when we first moved to China was we need to be able to communicate. But we needed to set a measure to that. And we only had a year. We knew we had a year-long teaching contract. So we were like, we have a year. So this goal, it has its time of a year at least. And so within the first year, we wanted to be able to order things on Taobao, order supplies on Taobao, and be able to order our groceries or go pick up our groceries, to be able to talk to taxi drivers and talk to people just on the street, to be able to order food in a restaurant without having to ask for help or translation or use our body language to point to, chicken. I mean, these are things that we wanted to be able to do. We wanted to be able to live comfortably with the confidence to be able to speak in Mandarin for the things that we needed to do. And what that meant, when you have a very specific goal with a specific time that is measurable, like that goal is, then you have a series of mini goals that are just super obvious in order to attain it. So to be able to speak confidently with people on the street, that meant we had to spend at least 3 10-minute conversations with people just outside. Just whether it's our neighbor or whether that's the street cleaner or whether that's a lady at the cash register that really thought our baby boy was cute. Okay. Whatever that took, we needed to have at least 3 times. And really, thankfully, from living there, it was super easy to do that a lot more.
Yeah.
But that's one of the things that helped us for Taobao. I remember one of my goals was to be able to order stuff by the time we had our baby boy. Like, I wanted to be able to shop online and have it delivered to the door while he was working and I was home with the baby. And so there was a natural time limit. Baby is a really good time limit, okay? And then I had to be able to do that. And how did I get there? I had to practice. I just had to get on there, and I would have to look things up there for a while. But before long, I was able to order plenty of stuff without having to use a dictionary.
Yeah, and so what's really good about about making goals that are measurable and time-oriented and realistic is that you can make a bigger goal, like passing the TOEFL or something like that, and then underneath that, you can have smaller goals and even smaller actions that you can do either daily or weekly so that you can achieve that bigger goal. But if we just have, I'm going to have this huge big goal, it can feel crushing sometimes to have to try to live up to that or try to get that huge thing that's super far away.
Yeah, for sure. One more thing I want to give you guys. This is like a bonus. It's a tip. Okay, there's the 3 things to make a great goal. But one thing that's outside of making that goal is having accountability. And that accountability can come from somebody that has a similar goal to you. It could come from a teacher. It could come from a tutor. It could come from other friends just cheering you on. But it needs to be somebody who knows what you're doing, understands what you're doing, knows what your goals are and your mini goals and holds you to it. In America, we'd say they have to give you a kick in the butt if you don't do it, right? They're going to make sure you do it. They're going to get onto you if you don't. And they're going to nag you basically until you do it. How much better if that's somebody who's going through it with you. So definitely find those people to be your accountability partners as you learn English and try to achieve your goal.
And I'm also going to give you a bonus one.
Uh-oh.
Not only do we need accountability, but we also need encouragement. A lot of times in language learning and in all these big goals and trying to do things right, we miss out on actually appreciating how far we've come. So it's when you pass that test, don't just say, I did it, that's great, and then let's move on to the next test.
Yeah.
Don't try to focus so much on that your goals that you pass a milestone or you pass something. You say, I want to memorize 1,000 words for my TOEFL exam that's coming in 6 months. I want to do that in 6 months. So divide that 1,000 by 6. Celebrate every time you get to that milestone. Because
Absolutely.
Your heart and your brain will be all the better for you to be able to say, I did it and I have done it. And that gives me the strength and encouragement to continue to do that,
And
especially if you do it with somebody. And it gives you that confidence, like you were just saying.
Yeah, gives you the confidence to get out there and do it. So,
Right.
All right. There you go, guys. That is our little bit. Now, I've designed for you guys a checklist. It's in the description below for you guys to be able to access. You can access it for free. It is to help you design your English language study goal. And it's going to help you lay out all the mini goals, the mini steps that are pretty obvious once you've made a really good, measurable, realistic goal, right? All of those will be in there. You'll have this little checklist to go by, and hopefully that'll help you. And if you feel confident enough, if you're brave enough, I want you to post it for us in the comments or share it on the Facebook page. We'd love to see what you're doing, how you're going to do it, and maybe all together online in this community, we can help each other reach our goals, our language learning goals.
All right. So subscribe, like, comment, and if you guys want to see more of this stuff, hang tight. We're going to keep on cranking stuff out. And it's great getting to share these things because we've also benefited from these same tactics and we hope that you guys do too. So we'll see you guys next time. Bye.